This edition of the Ridley Report is brought to you by nhliberty.org.
We'll say you get in, or even either way, of course, you're very involved in the State House. What are some of the most important goals you have for the coming session? Let's give it a positive twist. We'll say that in November, a lot of liberty-oriented candidates get elected. So we have a lot of people in the State House.
Yeah, and that's a very doable, achievable goal this year. So a couple of things we want to do is look at licensing laws. Unusually, the state of New Hampshire has more licensed professions than any other state in the country.
Don't do that.
It's nearly 200. Everywhere from a manicurist to a hairstylist to a real estate agent to auto inspection mechanic, right?
Yeah.
It's not just doctors and lawyers, it's all these other professions. And what that is, of course, is what that effectively does is eliminate competition, or it makes it harder for a competition to start up in a business, which inevitably leads to higher prices and higher cost of doing business, and thus higher prices for the customer.
Absolutely. And so most of these licenses, are they basically just pay a fee to the government and get your license? I mean, is that about basically it?
Yeah, that's part of it. The fundraising scheme for the government.
Right. And is there a lot to it besides that? And how expensive are the fees?
Well, it depends on the profession. In the real estate business, in which I'm a practitioner, it costs, I think, about $200 every couple of years.
Yeah.
Just for the license, and of course I have to take continuing education, which costs me a lot of money. It costs several $100s more.
And that's required
that's
for the
before
license
you ever
as well. Yeah.
Right, that's right. And that's one of the things we're looking at. Also in the real estate business next year, I'm particularly interested in property rights and landlord-tenant law. So we want to roll back some of the, let's say, preferential treatment that tenants get in many situations. For example, if they withhold rent, it's very difficult to evict them. So we might want to ease the eviction process and make it easier to keep their security deposit if they've trashed a place. And for construction, we have a lot of, let's say, anti-business laws here, like requiring sprinklers in new multifamily buildings, or you have to bring it up to code, fire code, anytime you do a remodel on the property. And there's a hideous transfer tax of 1.5% of the purchase or sales price on every real estate transaction. So all these have a chilling effect on the real estate business at the very time when we want that to really get a bump, when we want investors to come in and take these foreclosures off the market, improve the properties. But the more laws and restrictions and regulations we have, the more it's going to drive people off into neighboring states, because money is very mobile, and these investors will go elsewhere.
Right. And there is also New Hampshire doesn't have, thankfully, income tax or sales tax, but there is a business tax. Is that correct? No, perhaps I'm wrong.
There are two of them, business profits tax and business employees tax.
I see. So in this economy, maybe is that a goal to perhaps try to decrease those taxes and add more employment?
Well, yeah, we'd like to see that. There's also room in meals tax, which hurts the restaurateurs and the hoteliers, but it's a chicken and egg thing, because you can't just go in and cut taxes without also having offsetting cuts in expenditures.
That's right. Huge deficits help nobody, as we learned. For example, Reagan. Or a lot of other. Forget Reagan. Every person at the national level basically runs up these huge deficits. So if you have a huge deficit, it doesn't really help you if the taxes are down, because you still owe the money, right?
That's right. So it's a two-pronged approach. We have to do both, cut expenditures and cut taxes.
Right. Excellent.
New Hampshire's State House, among the least bad governing institutions on earth. But even here, legislators plot theft and destruction. However, they don't do it without opposition. The New Hampshire Liberty Alliance stands in their path and stands ready to train you in the ways of the Citizen Freedom Lobby. Visit nhliberty.org to get involved. Gratuitas public domain parties.